The time you have all been waiting for is finally here. The Hasselblad Xpan review. Okay, maybe you haven't been waiting for that, but I've been really excited to have this camera. I felt like I was gonna have to sell it at some point because I wanted to buy the Leica M6. If you haven't seen that video, check it out, I'll tag it here. But I didn't, I gotta keep it, and I just love this camera. I'll talk to you about why I love this and why I held on to it, and some reasons that I almost let go of it. So yeah, stay tuned. Yeah, so stay tuned and check out this video. Okay guys, first up, I wanna say thank you to my sponsor, Amazon. They're the only people paying my bills lately. Just kidding, that's not even funny. Just wanna thank my sponsor, Amazon. This isn't sponsored by Amazon, but I do get affiliate commissions when you purchase through the links below. I've made an Amazon shop full of all my favorite film gear, the film I use, my favorite cameras, my accessories, everything that I use. So go ahead and check that out, it's in the description. And if you buy anything through that, thank you, because I get a little commission kickback at no extra cost to you, so thanks. Okay, let's jump in. The Hasselblad Xpan. This is a beast of a camera and super unique. If you don't know about this camera, it basically is a 35mm film camera that shoots in 24 by 64 or something. It's basically a double wide aspect ratio. So it's two 35mm frames next to each other, all as one giant panoramic frame with no line split in between. So the beauty of that is you can just take some really breathtaking, unique aspect ratio photos. If you know me, you know how much I love panos, and so to have this camera and be able to shoot panos on film has been a dream come true. And on top of that, this camera is incredible. It's really well made, it's super durable and just beautifully made. The lens is really sharp and really nicely designed. The only drawback I would say is it only goes to f4. I like to shoot a little bit more wide open than that if I'm shooting portraits or just kind of want to blur out the background a little bit. But really with this, you're shooting landscapes mostly, and so that's not a huge issue. But when I was shooting at night in San Francisco, I was hand holding this at like 1/60th of a second, f4 with Portrait 400 push to stop, and I was shooting it, rating it at about 640, and I think I was going down to like 1/60th of a second to 1/30th of a second, and I got the photos pretty sharp, but they could have been a little bit brighter exposure. But yeah, that's kind of one of the instances I wish this went to 2.8 or so. Another thing about this camera, when I bought it off Film Supply Club when they had a sale. So that was awesome that I was able to get it at somewhat of a deal. These things are crazy expensive. I basically got the lens and the body for $2,900, and it only had about 100 or 200 rolls that have gone through it. It was pretty mint condition, besides the little scratches that happen on all of these Xpans just because of how the paint was made. But what it didn't come with was this center filter. And from reading a lot of different articles, I realized that this was pretty important. If you can see it, it basically is an ND filter in the center. So in the center, it's one stop darker, and it gradually fades out to brighter as you get to the outer edges of the filter. And what that does is it basically darkens the center, brightens the sides to make a reverse vignette, so that you get rid of the harsh vignette that you get with this without a filter. So I'll show an example here of shooting without the center filter, and you can see the vignetting that happens. And so with this, you lose another stop. It's a limiting thing, but it really helps make the photos an even exposure across the entire frame by having this. These things are super rare, and so they sell for like $300 on eBay, which is ridiculous because it's just a little filter. But I was able to buy the lens off Film Supply Club that had this on there. I took the filter off, I sold the lens, lost maybe like 50 bucks or so, so this ended up costing me about 50 bucks. All that to say that if you get an Xpan, make sure that you get a center filter. And honestly, if you're gonna spend a few $1,000s on an Xpan, it's worth a couple $100 to have that center filter. Is that filter worth $300? No, but it's rare and it really helps make the frame even exposure and it gets rid of the vignetting, so I would highly recommend it. So other features about this camera, it's got exposure compensation dial, it's got your shutter dial, it goes to 1/1000th of a second all the way down to bulb mode. You can put a flash on there. I haven't shot with a flash yet. And it's got this little ISO dial on the front. I haven't really used the built-in light meter yet, but I've heard that it's good. But back here you'll see your ISO and what frame you're on. One unique thing is when you load it, you basically load it like most 35mm cameras. You drop a roll in there, pull it across, drop it there, and then when you close it, it winds the entire roll out of the canister, and then as you shoot it, it rolls it back into the canister. I don't know why, there's only a few cameras that do that, and this one does, which is unique. I don't know if it's good or bad. I haven't heard why it is the way it is. Another feature on this is you can change from pano mode to 35mm mode. 2 frames side by side, you can go back to just the one normal aspect ratio of 35mm and shoot like that. I've never done that because I don't know why you would shoot this camera 35mm. I mean, it's a beautiful camera and a beautiful lens, but if I'm gonna shoot with this, I'm gonna shoot pano. And I get used to, when I'm using this, my eye just kind of goes to those scenes where it lends itself to a panoramic style. I also typically have another camera with me when I'm shooting with this. So now that I have the Leica M6, I'll probably carry the Leica M6 and this as I go around and shoot with it, just so I have a regular aspect ratio and the panoramic aspect ratio. This is the 45mm lens, but because the frame, the aspect ratio, it's really kind of about the same as a 24mm focal length of what you're looking through, but without any distortion. There's no distortion, and so that's the really cool thing when you're taking wide angle shots of a scene. You're not gonna get that warped distortion of a photo, so that's another nice feature of this camera. All in, I just love it. I'd say the only drawback is really it's difficult to share the photo properly. Most of these photos that I share nowadays are on Instagram, and so if you want to put it on one frame on Instagram, you have to put white or black lines on the top and bottom, which I don't like, especially not for the feed. But then I usually, where you scroll over and you can kind of stitch those photos together and really see it close up. So I don't mind looking at it that way, it's kind of fun, but it's just not the ideal aspect ratio for sharing on Instagram, not even on Facebook really. It's okay for YouTube because people look at their phone sideways, and so you can kind of use the aspect ratio that people are looking at on video, so it's not super bad for a video. The other drawback is it's awesome if you print it big, like 30 inches by 10 inches or even bigger, but it's a unique size. And so Pixieset, who I use for my photo galleries, and then WHCC, who I print with, they haven't combined to allow that aspect ratio to give to my clients. So I thought I was gonna use this more for wedding work and let my clients have these rad bridesmaids or groomsmen or whatever scene photos with this Xpan that were just super unique, but I can't link it up where they can purchase it. I can purchase through WHCC at that size, but Pixieset and WHCC hasn't linked that up to sell yet. So that was a really tough thing to like get over, is like, okay, this really doesn't make sense to bring to a wedding if I already have a bunch of cameras, if I'm gonna have to carry this around, and then when I go to share the photos, the client's really not gonna share that photo on Instagram. They don't have a way to print it. Sure, it's unique and rad, and I wish they could share it better, but it'd be cool for an album, but that's pretty much it. And so that to me was like, okay, do I sell this camera? Because that's kind of how I justified it, was I love taking landscape photos, but I also wanted to use it for my wedding work. And now that I can't use it for my wedding work, it's tough to hold on to, but I managed to. I was able to get my Leica M6 and still hold on to this camera. I hope I can hold on to it for longer. I love it. I would love to shoot 6x17 medium format with this aspect ratio. I watch a lot of Nick Carver's videos, and he does this all the time, and they're insane. I just love his work. Fuji makes a 6x17 handheld kind of rangefinder camera. It's kind of a beast. It's like this, but bigger. I would love to try one of those. I don't know if I would love it as much as this because this is a good size. And I do love 35mm film. And with this camera, I get 21, I think, frames out of a roll, which is still pretty good. It's better than I get out of my Contax 645 on medium format. So that's a lot about this camera, but I love it. And I would highly recommend trying one. I'll let you look through my viewfinder. It's insane. It's a really unique aspect ratio to get used to, and it just kind of puts you in a really cool thought process as you go around and shoot. So hope you enjoy these photos, and thanks for watching this video.